NASCAR fines Carson Hocevar $50,000. Kyle Busch is getting a new crew chief for the rest of the season. And Shane Van Gisbergen got a top 10 on an oval, and I think we should talk about it. Welcome back to Break Hard. I'm Matt. NASCAR has fined Carson Hocevar $50,000 and what they're calling a behavioral penalty stemming from this past weekend's race at Kansas. I'm not sure if Dale ever got a behavioral penalty. He did get a rough driving penalty back in the 80s, but nothing like this. So what did Hocevar do? Well, in the closing laps of the race, he spins out, right? We know that the 77 spun out. He had 4 flat tires. His car stranded on track like a beached whale. A turtle just could not move. It had no contact to the ground, spun the tires. NASCAR says a caution. Obviously, they needed to do that. Safety workers tend to the vehicle, and NASCAR says that while safety workers were tending to that vehicle, Hocevar revved his engine and spun his tires. Now, obviously, a dangerous situation. NASCAR has fined people before for doing dangerous things like this. Most recently, Joey Logano last year at Richmond on pit road, revved his engine, spun the tires out. You had Austin Dillon's family there, NASCAR officials, bad all around. Unsafe, don't want that to happen. Obviously, when safety workers are tending to the car, you don't want to put them in any more danger than they already are being on a racetrack at that with cars going around at pace car speeds, but still not always the safest place in the world. So that's what NASCAR penalized him for. And it's like, okay, that's understandable, right? And when you think about it, Carson Hocevar doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. He just has had too many transgressions in his career for you to be like, oh, well, did he not do it? I'm not sure. It doesn't seem, this seems really out of character for him. In this situation, it seems like it's kind of in character for Carson Hocevar. So I went back and looked at what the broadcast showed of this event, and I'm struggling to see anything in what the broadcast showed. So I'll show you what the broadcast had up right here. You can see it. At no point does he spin the tires. At no point does he rev his engine either. So, okay, that's a nothing burger. Nothing happened there. Well, Andrew Basso on Twitter went ahead and pulled his entire onboard camera from the point where he spins out at all the way until the point where he re-enters the race after putting new tires on back in the garage area. And I could only flag one spot where I was like, okay, maybe this is why they wanted to penalize him. And it's when the tow truck is trying to push the 77 back to pit road. Ultimately, they decide that they're not going to be able to push him. He's down on the apron now in turn 3. And as the tow truck is going around him to pull in front of him to hook him up to that tow truck to take him back for DVP, as they're doing that, you can hear Hocevar rev his engine and spin his tires as he's attempting to get the car back to pit road under its own power and not have the assistance of the tow truck.
We're working on it. They're killing us. What are they doing?
That's the only thing that I can flag here as being potentially why. Now, there is another small spot where they're hooking the car up to the tow truck to tow him back for DVP, where it sounds like he's trying to restart the car. You can hear what appears to be him hit the ignition. The car ultimately never refires, but there's also people talking over the radio, so it's hard to hear there. I went through the entire thing, and you can go to Andrew's Twitter. I'll link it in the bio below and try to watch the whole video as well. I don't see it. I don't see what the big issue was here. And Jeff Gluck kind of called it out on Twitter as well, being like, that's $50,000. Yeah, I don't see it. And ultimately NASCAR made the decision to issue this penalty. I assume that they have a solid reason for it. They don't just hand out penalties every single week for the heck of it, right? And if they want to put out that video clip or they want to explain exactly what it was and sort of timestamp it, I would love to see that. We love transparency around here. But yeah, I would like to see just something a little bit more as to what happened in this situation. Because what I saw didn't warrant $50,000. Now, I could be completely wrong. And maybe he did do something egregious that we just missed. We can't obviously see outside of the cockpit from the onboard camera. So maybe there was a safety worker or somebody around when that happened, in which case I completely understand it there. But I would just like to have a little bit more information on this. Regardless, Hocevar now has racked up $150,000 in fines over the last 2 years. $100,000 from NASCAR last year, stemming from the Nashville incident that he had under the caution laps, to this year and this incident that just happened at Kansas. Also, his team fined him $50,000 for the comments that he made about Mexico before that race earlier in the year. So it's been an expensive 18 months, 2 years for Carson Hocevar. But yeah, I'm not sure that this one warranted the $50,000. But again, if there's more information, I'm here for it. Good news, Kyle Busch fans. No, your driver still hasn't won a race. Yes, he probably is still going to continue talking about his intimate life with his wife on their podcast, but he is getting a new crew chief for the remainder of the season. Gone is Randall Burnett. He will not return to the top of the 8 pit box. In is Andy Street, who has been the crew chief for that number 33, third entry in the Cup Series for RCR this year. They made 7 starts with that car, but before people start to get really excited about this, let's temper expectations real quick, because that third car has struggled. Now, it doesn't get the same amount of attention and love as what the 3 and the 8 car do. I think we all can understand that. But in 7 starts, 4 with Austin Hill, 3 with Jesse Love, they've recorded 1 top 10. That came with Austin Hill. They have an average finish of 26.9 and an average start of 31.7. Not great. Not stellar numbers. Nothing that you're going to write home about and be like, Mom, you're never going to believe this. I'm killing it at summer camp. I've got an average start of 31.7. Oh, that's great. Out of 100 cars? No, out of 36. Yikes. Never really that good. So I would temper expectations a little bit here. Obviously, it's going to be a different voice for Kyle Busch. It's going to be a different philosophy for Kyle Busch atop the pit box. And maybe that's what they need, right? We've seen crew chiefs and driver combinations. When they get paired up, they maybe weren't great separate, but they are good together. Maybe this is going to be that. We'll have to wait and see. Andy Street, though, was also Austin Hill's Xfinity Series crew chief in 2022, 2023, and 2024. In that time, they scored 10 wins as well as 38 top 10. So he's not a bad crew chief. He knows how to win races in the Xfinity Series. I mean, heck, his biggest accomplishment in his career is probably taking Myatt Snyder to victory lane in 2021 at Homestead. People forget that. Feels like a fever dream. That might be the biggest accomplishment of anybody's career, because if you look at his numbers for the rest of the year, it's like, how did he end up winning that race at Homestead? It makes no sense. So Andy Street will be atop the pit box. Obviously, Randall Burnett is headed over to Trackhouse next year to crew chief for Connor Zilisch, which I still contend is a really good signing for Trackhouse, for Connor Zilisch, and a really good change of scenery for Randall Burnett as well. So all of that works out. Kyle Busch, is Andy Street going to be his full-time crew chief next year? That remains to be seen. I would expect them to promote from within. Obviously, Kyle Busch fans, they had a short list, and at the top of that was Rodney Childers. He's going to Junior Motorsport next year to crew chief in the Xfinity Series in the number 1 car for Connor Zilisch and Carson Quapple. So for Kyle, maybe this is the answer, maybe not, but at least they're going to get a trial over the next few races to close out the season and see if anything changes there. I think one of the more impressive storylines coming out of this past weekend's race at Kansas is the fact that Shane Van Gisbergen scored his first ever NASCAR Cup Series top 10 on an oval. And I know there's a lot of naysayers out there. There's a lot of people that don't like SVG. There's a lot of NASCAR fans that are not happy that this foreigner, a guy from New Zealand, he's from New Zealand, not Australia, separate countries, in the same region, separate countries though. Also Lee Diffie from Australia, not from England, not from New Zealand, not related to Shane Van Gisbergen. I think we covered all the bases there. But Shane Van Gisbergen comes in, he wins races on road courses, embarrasses the field, and everybody's like, well, he's only good at road courses. Okay, that's fine. That's fair. Michael Waltrip was really only good at super speedways and sometimes Phoenix and maybe, a Bristol here and there. But for the most part, only super speedways. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., only good at super speedways. The only place he's ever won at. Now, part of that's contributed to the car. But Shane Van Gisbergen is specialized in road course racing. That's what he's good at. And guess what? That's what he's paid to do, is win on those road courses. But people don't like it when you come over and you upset kind of the status quo and you don't go about things the way that people want you to go about them, which is always a bizarre concept. Regardless, SVG picked up its first top 10, which is actually really impressive. Why? Because the guy just started racing ovals last year. Everybody's like, oh, well, yeah, you should expect him to do this. He's a professional race car driver. He should be getting top 10s. Should he? Because a lot of these guys started racing ovals when they were children. He started doing it when he was like 34 and he's got a steep learning curve to get over it. So yeah, it is really impressive, but that doesn't stop people from trying to move the goalpost on him, of course, because that's what everybody wants to do. Oh, well, it's not that impressive because he didn't do this, or it's not that impressive because he didn't do it the way I think he should have done it over here. Well, he only got that top 10 on Sunday because he avoided the big wreck with Zane Smith and John Hunter Nemechek, to which Bozy on Twitter was like, he was already ahead of that big wreck because he was running really well. And don't forget the fact that he had to serve a stop-and-go penalty at the start of this race for unapproved adjustments that got his crew chief, Stephen Dorn, kicked out before the race even started. So he still came from 2 laps down to get back to the top 10 and finish in the top 10, which is a really impressive run. 24 cars on the lead lap. I think there were like 33 or 32 cars running at the end of this race, and people still want to talk about being like, well, if all the cars finish, maybe he doesn't finish there. Yeah, you're right. Maybe that is what happens, but we'll never know. If Denny Hamlin doesn't run into Bubba Wallace probably ends up winning that race. I don't know why we're dealing in hypotheticals here, but people love to deal in hypotheticals. I also got the person being like, well, Danica got a top 10 at Kansas, so it's not that impressive. Listen, Shane Van Gisbergen's 1 year NASCAR Cup Series career is more impressive than anything Danica ever did in a stock car for the number of years that she was over here. It's laughable that you would even try to compare the two of them. Then we get he didn't run in the top 15 for X amount of laps during the race. Who cares? Chase Elliott wasn't in contention to win this race until Denny Hamlin decided to drive the car that he owns, Bubba Wallace, up into the wall. But I don't hear people complaining about that one, do I? No, of course not. It is impressive that Shane Van Gisbergen finished in the top 10 on an oval. He came close last year at the Fall Martinsville race, got a P12 finish. Earlier this year, he had 2 14th place finishes, one at Richmond, the other one coming at the Coke 600. Now he gets that first top 10. He's learning. He's figuring it out. Is he going to win on an oval next year? Probably not, but he has led laps at super speedways. He's starting to figure this out more. And hey, 2027 rolls around. The guy could actually be legitimately dangerous. He could be a factor to win on ovals. He has won in everything that he's ever gotten, and he's a very talented race car driver. He's a generational talent. As AJ Allmendinger talked about on Door Clear this week, there's a reason that all the guys down in V8 supercars are winning races. It's because SVG's not there. He decided to come over and kick everybody's butt in America on road courses for now, but I would fully expect him to figure out how to win on ovals before his career is done. So let me know in the comments what you think about Hocevar getting a $50,000 fine, Kyle Busch getting a new crew chief, and SVG's first top 10 on an oval in the Cup Series. Was that impressive to you or not? Like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on TikTok at BreakHard, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at BreakHardBlog.